Okay.
Yes.
Yes, you can start.
Okay. Good evening to the audience in Hong Kong and good morning to those in Latin America. Buenos días a todos en Latin America. Thank you for joining the webinar today about doing business in Hong Kong during COVID-19. This is Niki. I'm from Nao Consulting. For this seminar, we are very happy to have invited 5 speakers here with us. They are Ms. Verónica Medina, the Principal Consultant from Invest Hong Kong in South America office, Mr. Chiang, the Associate Director General from Invest Hong Kong in Hong Kong head office, my colleague, Mr. Alejandro Milan, also the Director of Nao Consulting, Ms. Cecilia Paolini, the Head of Sales of Statrys, and Mr. Manuel Madrigal, the Director of Nasun Industrial Limited. So most of you have heard about Hong Kong. It is an international financial hub and a city with most of East culture and also West culture together. But apart from this, what makes Hong Kong a good place to do business? And during COVID-19, with all the travel restriction, it seems impossible to do expansion of your business without traveling. But are you able to do something in between? This webinar will address your question on all of these. And in between of the seminar, you can send us questions regarding your inquiry, and we will have a Q&A session at the end. Now I will invite Jimmy to explain to you how Hong Kong is a platform for doing business in Asia.
Thank you, Niki. So please help loading my presentation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's my great pleasure to be invited by Nao Consulting and Statrys to speak in this webinar on Hong Kong as a platform for doing business in Asia, representing Invest Hong Kong, the investment promotion agency of the Hong Kong government. Today, I'm just hoping to give you a quick update about how Hong Kong is doing as a business hub in Asia, especially during the global pandemic situation. And I'm trying to look at the issue from 3 different perspectives. First, are there some good business opportunities in and through Hong Kong? Second, is Hong Kong still business friendly from an institutional point of view? Third, is Hong Kong a good place to live if you need to relocate yourself to the city for setting up your business? Next, please. So first of all, let's take a look at opportunities, which is of course very important. And actually statistics show that there is still a big cluster of foreign companies having their base in Hong Kong. According to our annual survey, 9,025 foreign companies were operating in Hong Kong last year, up 10% against 2017. And among them, 1,504 were actually regional headquarters, up 6% versus 2017. And the top 5 origins of foreign companies in Hong Kong are mainland China, Japan, the US, the UK, and interestingly, Singapore as well. And top 3 sectors that these companies are operating in are, no surprise, trading, finance, transportation, and logistics. Next, please. And our data also supported that the startup ecosystem in Hong Kong is actually growing very fast. Last year, 3,360 startups were operating in Hong Kong, up 51% versus 2017. And more than a quarter of our startup founders are actually from outside Hong Kong, like mainland China, UK, US, and Australia. And they are very keen to develop business in fintech, e-commerce, professional services, IT, and so on. Next, please. And Hong Kong, being part of China, is certainly enjoying a strong economic prospect. As we all know, China is the only major economy in the world that registered a positive growth last year. In particular, the development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area, GBA, is one of the most important regional development plans of China, spearheaded by the central government. And this will provide tremendous opportunities for companies operating in Hong Kong and the GBA. Just to refresh your memory, the GBA comprises of Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 cities in the Guangdong province, with a total population of 72 million, a combined GDP comparable to that of South Korea or Australia. And for those of you who are producers or suppliers of consumer goods, the GBA is a huge market that you cannot really ignore. And Hong Kong, with very strong international connections and business know-how, is arguably the best gateway for international companies to access the GBA. It's really a no-brainer. Next, please. With the GBA development, I expect that 2 business sectors will emerge to become Hong Kong's economic engines in the future. One is financial services, the other is innovation and technology. Take a look at our financial services industry. Our capital markets are doing very well at this moment. In fact, in the last 12 years, Hong Kong was the world's largest IPO center 7 times. Meanwhile, Hong Kong is also Asia's largest asset and wealth management center. Statistics show that the total asset under management by Hong Kong was over 3.1 trillion US dollars. That's almost a double of the GDP of the whole GBA. So it's really very significant. Next, please. And regarding innovation and technology, the Hong Kong government is highly committed to developing this sector as our major economic driver, and already invested more than 13 billion US dollars in this regard in the last few years. Within the GBA, Hong Kong and Shenzhen will work very closely together to develop INT. And this new Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park that is now being built near the boundary between the 2 cities is going to be a key driver, a game changer. The new park will focus on 6 research areas, including healthcare technologies, AI and big data, robotics, new materials, microelectronics, and fintech. And its first phase consists of 8 buildings accordingly, which are expected to be completed in stages between 2024 and 2027. Next. Of course, investors seek opportunities. They also treasure a business location with strong institution, which is business friendly. And I believe that Hong Kong is one of these locations in the world. First of all, Hong Kong is still one of the freest economies in the world, with truly free flows of goods, people, capital, and information. A very business-friendly city, very easy to set up and do business. Next, please. Hong Kong we are always embracing a low and simple tax system. Corporate income tax is only 16.5%, but actually for the first 2 million Hong Kong dollars of your profits, you pay only 8.25% tax. And we have no GST, no VAT, no import tax, no tax on capital gain, dividend and interest, no estate duty. We don't know what they mean actually. Next, please. And the government has actually become more aggressive in offering tax incentives to attract certain strategic business operations to set up in Hong Kong, such as corporate treasury centers by multinational corporations, aircraft and ship leasing businesses, and different investment funds. Next, please. And our rule of law and judicial independence have not changed. Hong Kong is the only common law jurisdiction in China, a legal system familiar to many international investors. In fact, even today, our Court of Final Appeal still has 14 eminent judges coming from other common law jurisdictions like the UK, Canada, and Australia. And I think the presence of these esteemed foreign judges in Hong Kong provides very strong support for our legal system. Next, please. I think Hong Kong is not just a good place for doing business, but also for living. And next, please. Hong Kong is very unique in the sense that it's a place where you can see a very interesting blend of East and West. For example, if you have a chance to visit Hong Kong, when the pandemic is over, I strongly recommend you this place called Tai Kwun in Central, which was built in 1925 with a police station, a court, and a prison. Today, this historic complex has become a public space for heritage and arts. And in fact, a couple of years ago, Tai Kwun actually received the Award of Excellence from the UNESCO, recognizing its cultural heritage conservation. So it's a very interesting place. You must go. Next, please. And Hong Kong is always famous for its vibrancy. It's not just a business city full of skyscrapers, but also a lot of beautiful nature. We have one of the UNESCO global geoparks here, actually. And many international events are held in Hong Kong every year. For example, last week, we successfully hosted the virtual and physical Art Basel in our city. It's also a gourmet paradise, 66 Michelin-starred restaurants, very fascinating nightlife. Living in Hong Kong, you will never get bored. Next, please. It's also very easy to shop, commute, and communicate in Hong Kong. Shops are everywhere, and public transport system is very, very efficient. You don't really need a car living here. And our telecom system is quite advanced with very fast internet connection, one of the highest mobile penetration rates in the world. On average, every Hong Kong resident has 2.8 mobile phones. It's quite crazy. Next, please. So just to conclude, Hong Kong, I think, is still a pretty attractive business location, a city convenient to do business and live. And more importantly, the best gateway to access opportunities in China and Asia. Now, the biggest challenge that we are facing right now is no doubt the pandemic. But I'm happy to share with you that the economy of Hong Kong actually expanded 7.9% year on year in the first quarter of this year, ending a 6-quarter recession. And I do believe that the worst time for Hong Kong is gone. And if you are interested in setting up your business in Hong Kong, please don't hesitate to contact us for our tailor-made government support. Likewise, professional companies like Nao and Statrys can also provide you with a lot of value-adding services during this setting up process, especially under the pandemic. So once again, Thank you for having me, and my colleague Veronica will explain our services in greater detail. Thank you very much.
So now I will pass the stage to Veronica to talk about Invest Hong Kong office in South America and how they promote Hong Kong.
So good morning, everyone. Well, as well, to kind of complement a little bit what Jimmy said, first of all, to thank Nao and Statrys for inviting us for this important webinar today. As mentioned, we take care of the Invest Hong Kong office in South America, excluding Brazil. So we have an office here based in Santiago, Chile, and we also have a physical office in Lima, Peru. And from those two countries, we look after the rest of the countries in South America. We are actually very active here in our communities, really across the board. We've had Jimmy visit pre-pandemic. We've had Jimmy visit Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, throughout the various years that Invest Hong Kong has had the office here. And I think during the pandemic, we've actually been more active than pre-pandemic in terms of webinars that we've been doing, because everything can be done online. We are here to help local South American companies actually do business in Hong Kong through the setting up of an office in Hong Kong. And from there, as Jimmy mentioned, not only considering the Hong Kong ecosystem, but from there, targeting the rest of Asia, specifically the Greater Bay Area, specifically ASEAN, as Jimmy mentioned, that can be done very easily through Hong Kong. We are actively helping, and I will talk about mainly the last year and a half with the pandemic, because I know that's been the focus of everyone. How is business happening through the pandemic? We've been helping companies a lot in technology and technology sector, whether that's artificial intelligence, robotics, fintech, also companies relating to medical technology, medical devices, has been very active. And very active also in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, because we are seeing that digitalization of our economies in terms of whether it's the medical sector, whether it's the retail sector, the e-commerce as well as the fintech sector. We just participated in the Chilean FinTech Forum, which occurred less than 2 weeks ago, and we had over 2,500 participants at that event. The services that we provide to South American companies are free of charge. I think that's very important for companies to make use of services. Everything from actually companies that are just starting with their Asian strategy, are looking into Asia, and we can help them with that decision making, providing them information, providing them connections, providing them also information about how their ecosystem works in Hong Kong. So we can begin to help from the very start of that decision-making process, all the way through to companies that are actually already set up in Hong Kong. And from there, we can help them grow. So it's kind of that aftercare services. So we are helping companies with providing them with that information, helping companies in terms of what kind of Hong Kong companies they can set up, information on bank accounts opening, and that's obviously why we have Cecilia here today, Alejandro as well today, to help with that technical knowledge. Also connecting people to the ecosystems at Invest Hong Kong. We are very well connected in the Hong Kong ecosystems with the Hong Kong Science Park and with other major players, Cyberport in the city, that will assist companies again in making that informed decision of why they need to be in Hong Kong. We have also helped our companies with their executives obtaining visas, their business visas, to actually go and work in Hong Kong. If executives are going with their families, we are also helping them with identifying schools that children can actually attend. So it's really an integral service that we are providing to executives in terms of the decision for Hong Kong. So I think that that's all I have to say right now, except for please, as Jimmy mentioned, Hong Kong presents a lot of opportunities, and not just for the city, but for the surrounding areas of the city, the Greater Bay Area, the ASEAN markets. The benefits are very clear of why Hong Kong should be or could be a starting point for you in this great market. We are here, we are local. I am speaking to you from Santiago right now. And again, the services that we provide are free of charge. So please make use of this great resource.
Thank you, Veronica, and thank you, Jimmy, before regarding the sharing of Hong Kong. So now we know more about the information of Hong Kong, and you might be thinking of setting a business in Hong Kong. And now my colleague Alejandro will explain to you how to set up a company in Hong Kong remotely.
Thank you very much, Niki, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Jimmy Chiang, for your presentation and introduction of Hong Kong. And thank you, Veronica, for the introduction of the South American office of Invest Hong Kong. My presentation will focus on how to set up a company in Hong Kong and how to take benefit of those advantages that Jimmy mentioned. And I will explain you that it can be done even without the travel restrictions during COVID-19. Yes. I will briefly introduce our company. Nao Consulting offers legal, strategic, and commercial solutions for companies trying to expand their business into China and Hong Kong. Our main markets are Europe and Latin America. We have 4 departments in our company. The first one is international law, where we help foreign companies with their intellectual property strategy, with multi-jurisdictional contracts, dispute resolutions, M&As. The second department is the corporate services that we are going to be talking about today, which include the company incorporation, the corporate secretary, and the corporate governance. The third department is the China strategy, is for a second phase when you enter Hong Kong. It's about market penetration, industry intelligence, and business matching. And the last department is accounting and finance, which has to do with the audit of your company, with the bookkeeping and taxation. We have offices in Hong Kong, mainland China, and Latin America. And our team includes lawyers, accountants, and masters in corporate governance. And we are able to assist you in Spanish, English, Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, and French. Some of the main benefits about Hong Kong, Jim explained most of them. I will go quickly. Hong Kong has been for over 20 years one of the freest economies in the world. The free capital inflow and outflow is completely transparent and free. Compared to mainland China, the outflow of capital is very difficult. That is why many companies choose Hong Kong when entering and penetrating the China market. As well as you have access to multi-currency accounts, and the share capital of your company, it can be done with $1 Hong Kong dollar. There's no minimum capital requirement. For example, in mainland China, depending on the industry of the companies, the capital requirements can be $250,000 US to $1 million US. So Hong Kong is much more flexible for a starting point in Asia, as well as the low taxes in Hong Kong, which is 8.5% for the first 250,000 US dollars, and from there over, the taxes are 16.5%. As well, Hong Kong allows you to include a lot of expenses that your company has in Hong Kong or in the overseas. For example, if you are in Chile and you have to pay hotel, expos, trade shows, you can deduct them with your Hong Kong company and avoid heavily taxes. As well as Hong Kong is the traditional business hub in Asia. The geographical position with mainland China, Japan, Korea is very close. And also the science and technology, in the science and technology part, we have parts that promote the ecosystem of fintechs, of startups, and that's why this is one of the main benefits of Hong Kong as well. Now, talking about the types of business formation in Hong Kong, first we have to ask us the question whether we are going to conduct business activities in Hong Kong, which I assume that most of the companies will conduct business activities. Then we have two options, whether to form an unlimited liability company or the limited liability company. Since we want to control the liability of the companies, we will mostly recommend limited liability. And the type of company that is most used in Hong Kong is a private company limited by shares. So we are going to be talking about this company in this presentation. So how about the characteristics of the limited company? First, the shareholders, there's no minimum for shareholders. It can be one person or one company in Hong Kong or outside Hong Kong. There's no residency. They don't need to reside in Hong Kong. So these shareholders can be anywhere. So that is quite flexible because you can form a joint venture in Hong Kong with two different companies. Or if you are an entrepreneur, you can be as well the sole shareholder of your company and be in Argentina or be in Japan. As well, the company must have one director at least. This director is the legal representative of the companies. So bigger companies have more than one director, and these directors do not necessarily need to reside in Hong Kong. They can be based in China or in Mexico or in Korea, and they can conduct the business from there. The only thing that by law you need to have in Hong Kong is a secretary and a registered address. The secretary is a third entity, which is not the shareholder or the director, that needs to provide with the corporate, that needs to have the corporate documents of your company up to date, and it must reside in Hong Kong. It's normal that companies like Nao that are trusted service providers provide you with this service, and as well with a registered address. If you don't start with a physical office at the very beginning, the company secretary can provide you with a registered address in order to fulfill the requirement of the government of Hong Kong. As well as you need to appoint a designated representative in Hong Kong, which will help you to have the record of the significant controllers of the company in case there is any inspection from the government. So with these two things, the designated representative and the secretary, you can do your own business and you can start your own business without need to travel to Hong Kong. So the steps for incorporation, first you need to choose the name of your company, and you can do the search very quickly. It can be done within minutes. After you decide the name of your company, you need to file a form called NNC1, where you inform the government about the directors, the shareholders, the registered address, and the secretary. So this document will contain that information. And as well, you need to file your articles of association. After you do that, you need to pay a government fee of 1,720 Hong Kong dollars, which will be for the certificate of incorporation. And as well, you need to pay 250 Hong Kong dollars for the business registration certificate, which will be the tax ID. This process usually takes around 5 days, and the signing of documents and the sending of documents from abroad can be done without traveling. So even if Hong Kong still remains closed for travelers, it doesn't mean that it's closed for business. So you can still do that from abroad without any delay. Now let's talk about the obligations of these companies. The obligations are very simple because you have corporate and tax obligations. In the corporate side, you need to prepare and file annually a document called the annual return, which will have the corporate records of all the directors, shareholders, and if there was any change in the directors or shareholders, we need to report it to the government, as well with the address. So that's an obligation that you need to do, as well as to keep the register of the significant controller up to date. In terms of tax, you need to renew your tax ID, which is called a business registration certificate in Hong Kong once a year. And also you need to submit your financial statements and your audit every year. The financial year in Hong Kong usually runs from 1st of April to 31st of March. Many companies choose this financial year because it's the traditional year in Hong Kong, but other companies as well, they are allowed to choose the 31st of December to match it with the financial year of the parent company in different jurisdictions. So with this, you're flexible to choose your financial year. And if you're a new company, you have up to 18 months to file your first audit and financial statements. So that gives you enough time to prepare for the tax season. After you have your company incorporated, usually the next step is the bank accounts. The bank accounts have become a very difficult step in Hong Kong. First, because there's no travel, and most of the all the banks ask the director to be physically present in Hong Kong for the account opening. And also they ask for a lot of business proof for new companies. Like, for example, if you're a trading company, they will ask you for your bill of lading, for your agreement with your suppliers, with your agreement with your distributors. And I know that when you have a new company, it's very difficult to provide this information because you are very new. But the banks in Hong Kong see you as a very small company or as a potential company that will not generate a lot of business and that has lost the appetite of the bank to open you a bank account. But that is why we have Statrys here today to give us an alternative and what the fintech ecosystem in Hong Kong is doing to help companies to do payments, etc., without need to travel to Hong Kong. Now, I'm going to give you 5 tips to minimize the risk when starting your business in Hong Kong. The first one is to approach experts by industry and jurisdiction. I think in this webinar, you have experts. You have Invest Hong Kong from the government of Hong Kong. You have Nao Consulting, which is a trusted service provider, registered and licensed in Hong Kong. And you have a Statrys, a company that is also licensed in Hong Kong. So whenever you can, try to approach experts before entering Hong Kong. Then whoever you choose as your consulting company, ask them to have your access, ask them to give you access to your corporate information all the time and to be 100% transparent. Also, as I explained, the corporate and tax obligations in Hong Kong are very simple. However, you need to fulfill those obligations in order to avoid penalties or further complications when you are running your business. So it's very good to stay up to date with those obligations. And another tip is to have the control of your company. Sometimes when you do a joint venture in Hong Kong, let's say between a Japanese company and a Mexican company, you form an entity here, and the minority shareholders might not have enough rights or control in the company. By having a shareholders agreement and defined also articles of association since the very beginning can help you to have control of your company, which will benefit you in the long term. And then the last tip is to maintain good relationship with the bank. Traditional banks, if they see that you are operating and there's a transaction they don't like, they will ask you for information about this transaction. You must ensure that the bank has all the documents that they require very quickly, otherwise they might freeze your account. As well as you must maintain the minimum balances all the time in your bank accounts. And whenever you can travel to Hong Kong, it's always good to visit the bank, to visit your service providers, and to have a good relationship with them. This is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to reply. And these are our office addresses if you want to visit us.
Thank you, Alejandro. So as Alejandro mentioned, after you set up a company in Hong Kong, for sure you need a business account to start operation. But because of the size of the business and also because of the travel restriction at the moment, you are not able to fly to Hong Kong to do a physical interviews. So now Cecilia will explain to you how to open and how to run your business account remotely in Hong Kong.
Hi, thank you, Niki. Thank you, Alejandro, and thank you, Verónica, for speaking so far. I'm Cecilia. I'm based in Hong Kong as well, and I'm representing Statrys. Statrys has been established in 2018 by an entrepreneur that found that it was a lack in the market to provide service to SMEs and startups. With the COVID-19, obviously, the opening of a bank account has been much more complicated, as the traditional banking system do require director and or shareholder to be in Hong Kong. And they're not very keen on opening bank account to new company. As Alejandro was mentioning before, they do require proof of business. Statrys was built for the purpose to provide smooth and quick solution to access online banking without the hassle. So, and to be able to reach your business account, to operate your business account from anywhere you were. I think you can change the slide. So, how business accounts are opened with us? It's, as I said, 100% online, and we require you to provide your business registration, passport of the director and the shareholder, description of the business, and payment flow. Once it's done, the application is submitted to our platform, our compliance team comes in, and they will follow with you the application through, providing you with additional information that they need. And this process takes normally 2 to 5 working days. With additional banks, there is no short term, and it takes much longer. With normal banks, it takes 2 to 3 months on average to open a bank account. You can go to the next one. Yeah, again. So obviously in Hong Kong, we have different alternatives. We have other business, multiple fintech associations, like us, that are a financial institution and provide the online multi-currency account. And we also have, since the last couple of years, virtual banking. But also the virtual banking licensees that require you to be in Hong Kong. They don't provide them, and mostly it's for individual.
With the presentation, they cannot see it.
No problem. We can move to the next one. So as we were saying in the beginning, for the traditional banking, they require you to be in Hong Kong physically. They prefer, obviously, company already established with a secure business. They ask you to have to provide a down payment at the time of the opening of the account, and they require a minimum balance to be kept. And they do annual checks, and you need to present the document in person every time. In alternative banking, such as ours, which are a financial institution, in fact, with an banking license, of course, they are 100% online. We are very user-friendly, and we are designated to new business and SMEs. And you can reach to people in person and speak also multiple language. You can put the next. Yeah, thanks. So as I was saying previously, as you can see here, is how you can open an account with us. So you can name of the company, information about the director and shareholder. I'm waiting for a call. I'm waiting 2 to 5 working days maximum. You're up and running with your business, and you can start cashing in the money that you from your suppliers or client. Intentional slide. In Statrys, we will be launching in the next couple of months a prepaid MasterCard where you can withdraw money worldwide. So it will and pay online, so you can accelerate also your business. Next, please. So as I was mentioning briefly before, the difference between traditional bank and Statrys, of course, is you need to be there in person, as it's obviously a huge difference compared to us that you do it completely directly from your office. You don't need to travel to Hong Kong. The waiting time is 2 to 4 months on average. For us, it's 48 hours on average. They require at least one of the shareholder or director to physically be in Hong Kong. We don't require that, and we do that through online. We conference with our clients through a Zoom meeting, like we're doing today, for instance. For the bank SMEs, are risk averse because obviously they have to make an investment upfront as a compliance to open the account for them, but they actually don't know what would be the revenue driven by them, as Alejandro was mentioning before. They need to keep a minimum balance all the time, and you need to put a down payment. With Statrys, we don't require minimum balance because we are obviously startup friendly. What we also have in Statrys is that we provide access to tools that the banks don't allow unless you're not a VIP, which is a competitive FX rate. We have a dedicated representative. You have access to FX tools as a forward and swap, which the bank don't allow, and full access by the online platform. You can change to the next slide. So as I was saying, of course, we start with you have multi-channel support. You can reach to different channels with chat, email, phone, or WhatsApp, or directly also beside our support team to one of the sales team. It is, yes, 100% online, but we do add a human touch, which we believe is very important. So you can access always a friendly voice that can support. And the next, please. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Cecilia. So now we are ready. We have the company in Hong Kong and we have the account to start operation. And now I will ask Manuel, the director of Nasun Industrial Limited, to share with you his success story of how to expand his business from Costa Rica to Hong Kong, and during COVID-19 continue the remote operation.
Thank you, Niki. Thank you, Alejandro. It's always easy to talk about good experiences, and that's what it has been for us. Hong Kong, Lanao, and Statrys have been good experiences for our company. So could you please start the presentation? I'm not able to share the screen to share the presentation, so. Okay, perfect. Well, our company, Nasun, started as part of a project. Me and my brothers, we are the third generation of a Costa Rican family dedicated to business. And we wanted to establish a company in Asia, in Hong Kong, to expand our markets. Costa Rica is a very tiny market in Central America, and we wanted to be more aggressive and address more markets in the area. So we had a good reference of Lanao, and we decided to contact Alejandro and Evaristo, and find out what was involved in creating a company in Hong Kong. So just to give you a short introduction to Nasun, we are a Hong Kong-based trading company. We buy products from China, Thailand, South Korea, and Vietnam. And as I said, our main products are mostly consumer goods. For example, lighters, butane gas, portable stoves, paraffin, fasteners, well, many stuff. And our main market is Central America. I would like to show you just an example of the products that we have been working on. Please, next slide. For example, this is one of our latest products. It's a brand that we developed, it's Box, and we have been creating a line of gas-related products like portable stoves, gas cans, and it's very interesting because Hong Kong allows us to move in different directions. I wanted to share this slide because, for example, the kitchen was manufactured in China, and the gas can is manufactured by a company in South Korea. Please, the next slide. And as you can see, we can address from our origins, we can get these products into, for example, in this case, it's Walmart, Mexico, and Central America. And we have been growing through this business. I think one of the attractives of working from Hong Kong is that Hong Kong related products are also perceived as better quality by purchasing departments in the different main supermarket chains in the area. And that takes me to why we picked Hong Kong. As I said, Hong Kong, at least in our region, has always been perceived as a good origin, as a very solid and safe origin for products, and also dealing with manufacturers in Asia and letting them know that we are established in Hong Kong has also opened a lot of doors for our company. We like about Hong Kong that the legal system, it's more transparent, at least for us, for Latin Americans. Also the possibility of understanding the laws in English, it's easier for us. Also, the internet banking was a big plus because Hong Kong financial institutions have invested tons of money and time to develop probably the most friendly internet banking platforms in the world. And so I think that's one of the main advantages. In terms of establishing the company and jumping to Hong Kong, we were very lucky because we were introduced by one of our family members to Lanao, and from the first moment, the guys from Lanao, also Niki, has been not only helpful in a sense of being very friendly, but also very responsible on helping us taking the best decisions in terms of growing and expanding our company. And I wanted also to share some of the things that we have enjoyed by being in Hong Kong. In our case, we wanted to, as I said, we wanted to develop these brands and products. And we needed, for example, barcoding, and all these business-related institutions in Hong Kong are very business-oriented, and they're always very helpful. In our case, we went to GS1 in Hong Kong, and it was a very easy It was very easy to obtain the barcodes that we needed, actually a lot cheaper than other destinations like mainland China, or for example, in our case in Costa Rica, to obtain those barcodes. And so that has been also our experience working with people from Hong Kong. As you can see right there, we have been using the Hong Kong barcode system to label the different products that we have been manufacturing in China and South Korea. So next one, please. Lanao, from the very beginning, like probably the first thing that they did, they spent a couple meetings with us, understanding who we were and what were like our goals by establishing a company in Hong Kong. The people from Lanao gave us a very detailed explanation of what we needed. They also made most of the work for us in terms of preparing all the documentation. Like, they will send you the documents and they will request the information that it's really like impossible for them to prepare, but the rest will be already prepared and ready. And I like the fact that every time we went, for example, to a bank or to other institution, and we were next to a Lanao officer or person, they did have a very good impression about Lanao. So it's like having a good last name in Hong Kong, being associated with people that have demonstrated to be trustful and very respectful for the law. As Alejandro explained a couple presentations, Lanao is not only a company that will allow you to create this corporation in Hong Kong, they will help you through the way of establishing that bank account and also with the accounting. And I think that maybe accounting, it was for me the most tricky part, because I wasn't sure how it was going to work. And it has been very simple. People are very explanatory about the things that we need to fill. And right now, like, it has been almost 6 years from our first exercise, and it has become a very simple process. And every time I need to have some information, I just need to pick up the phone, and there's always going to be a gentle voice in Hong Kong to give me some help. So I'm very happy, and it's a pleasure for me to work with Lanao. I will highly recommend them to anyone thinking about going to Hong Kong. A couple of years ago, we have had a bank account from the very beginning on a normal banking institution, and we thought it was kind of a risky to only have that only option in Hong Kong. And we went to Lanao. They offered us this alternative of Statrys. We found it very interesting, but because it was a very new way to create these payments online. And I think Statrys for at least for all the investigation that we did, was the best alternative for us. So we went we talked with them. It was very easy from the very beginning, as Cecilia was explaining. No robots, not jumping from one office to another. It was always dealing with a couple of persons from the very beginning, very personal experience. And also the thing that I think helped us, it was that Lanao knew us for many years. So this relationship also between Lanao and Statrys allow us to have a good referral when we started dealing with Statrys. It was a very simple process. Actually, my point 6 says we have never opened an account that easy anywhere. I think it has two things to do with it. First, that our company was like a real company, well established, but also the times that we have to deal with Statrys officials, they were very prepared in terms of like they read about our company and they knew exactly who they were like talking with. So we're very happy we have this account open, and for us it's a safe. It makes us feel safer to have that account in Hong Kong. My last slide is about remote operation. I think our advices as let's say a small company from Latin America is to rely more on the local contacts. In our case, in companies like Statrys and Nao, try to focus on the suppliers that have committed for you with you for many years. Not try to develop new things, but just be loyal to the manufacturers that have been supportive to you. Don't panic. I know we all thought that by this month we should all be in a different situation, but it seems that we're still here and we're still fighting with this COVID situation. It's going to be over soon, hopefully. But I think that the best advice is not to panic and keep working, and also not only working, but learning how to get the most, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities created from COVID. And I think one of the best opportunities for companies like us is that there's going to be a better feeling for online businesses. And I think there's a huge market over there. And my last advice is to be loyal to the people that have been working with you. I think what you most value at this moment is that people don't panic and be loyal to you. So thank you very much for allowing me to share this experience. It's a pleasure to always visit Hong Kong. I live in a very nice country, but I can tell you that every time I visit Hong Kong, I also feel at home. Well, my last quote is it's a Charles Darwin quote that says that the species that survive are not the strongest or the most intelligent, are the ones that adapt, that are most adaptable to change. So hopefully we can all adapt to change soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you for your encouraging story. I think it will be a very good advice for all newcoming business and coming to Hong Kong after the pandemic. And now it comes to the Q&A section. We have received some questions from the audience. The first question, I will pass it to Veronica. It's about when will be the expected date for Hong Kong to reopen the border to foreigners?
So thank you, Niki. That's a very tough question to answer at this time. I think we are still in the different waves of the pandemic. Hong Kong has been advancing with discussions with different countries in terms of setting up these travel bubbles. But for us, because Hong Kong around the world, we have over 30 offices around the world. We are all waiting, all of the office directors are waiting to actually be able to come back to Hong Kong. And I think right now there's no hard date set. And we just have to see how the evolution of this pandemic occurs. But I think it is very encouraging that obviously the Hong Kong government is actively looking at setting up these travel bubbles with different countries and maybe softening the requirements for the quarantine once people enter Hong Kong. So I think from me, that's kind of my take on how things are with the opening up of the borders, Niki.
But we all expect it will be open soon. And then the next question.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And the next question I will pass to Alejandro. It's about, so during the COVID-19, because the foreigner cannot come to Hong Kong to do business, so are they able to hire someone in Hong Kong to help them for the business? And also, how about if someone and they already have the company in Hong Kong and they can apply for a working visa to travel to Hong Kong, like an owner visa or like a working visa?
Yes, thank you, Niki, for the question. Very good question, actually, because only residents can enter Hong Kong right now. However, if you get an employment visa, you can become a resident of Hong Kong and be able to fly to Hong Kong. If you have already a company here, there are some requirements that the immigration department will ask you for. The first one would be to have an office. So you must hire an office for that employee, which I guess it will be the director or the shareholder of this company. And also they will ask you for at least 8 months of that employee's salary deposited in the bank account. This will be to ensure that the company has enough funds to cover the expenses and the allowances of this employee. And in case they need to repatriate it back to their own country, they can do it. So yes, even if you're not in Hong Kong, you can still apply for an employment visa with your company. It usually takes around 1 month. And after that, you will receive your visa. And with that visa, you can enter Hong Kong.
Thank you, Alejandro. And we have another question, I think, for Manuel. So you are doing the trading business, and some audience is asking, is there any exemption about the duty tax for all those offshore transactions?
Yes, there's you have to apply for being for tax exemption. In our case, we are an offshore company, but you have to file that process, and Nao can help you do that. I think what you need to demonstrate is that there's like not necessarily doing business exactly in Hong Kong, but only abroad. But that's an option.
Thank you for your answer. And are there any more questions from the panel? So one of the audience also asking about the trading business. So they want to ask, I think this question is for Veronica as well. Is it any product they are able to trade in Hong Kong, like the vegetable or maybe the fruit product from China, from Mexico? Are they able to do it in Hong Kong?
A lot of the companies that we have been helping here in South America are actually retail and food and beverage companies. So there is a lot of companies, say, for example, from Peru, Colombia, Chile, that are actually trading, whether it's vegetables, whether it's fruit, and you know, coffee from Colombia as well. I know has been very active. The wine also that's going into Hong Kong and then into mainland China from our countries as well has been very popular. So throughout the pandemic, this is also a sector that we've seen that has increased actually, you know, that hasn't seen such a hard time because of the pandemic itself. So we have been helping actively companies from our region that are actually exporting their products into that market. And some of those mentioned, the fruits and the vegetables, we have definitely seen an increase the last year.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So there is another question for you. One of the audience asked, can they go to Hong Kong? If they are Mexican, can they go to Hong Kong, but they already got the vaccination?
From what I understand, Alejandro, right now, they can't unless they're a Hong Kong resident. Is that right? Or the other restriction I know is that people from abroad traveling to Hong Kong also have to do a 3-week quarantine is the final information that, the latest information that I have.
That's correct. Only Hong Kong residents can enter Hong Kong from Mexico, regardless of whether they're vaccinated or not.
Or no.
Even if they're unvaccinated, Hong Kong residents can come. But if you're not a resident and if you're vaccinated, still Hong Kong is not open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We still need to wait for a moment.
There's a question, Nikki, there, I think about cryptocurrencies. I don't know if Cecilia would be the best person to answer that.
Statrys itself doesn't deal with cryptocurrency.
Okay.
We don't, unfortunately, at this stage, because our license does not allow us. They are two completely different businesses. But cryptocurrency in Hong Kong, there is many companies dealing cryptocurrency, but I'm not quite sure how. So maybe we can eventually revert to the person that asked in the second stage.
Yeah.
Maybe from you guys from Hong Kong Invest or
yeah,
different way.
I think the question is coming from Guy Shapira. So Guy, I know that Nao, Alejandro, and Niki will share our contacts at the end of the event. So if you would like, please send us an email and we can help you further with that particular question.
Okay. Yeah, we will direct some question to you, and then when you get more information, then you can give more details to the audience.
I think I have no more questions.
Yeah, so I think from our panel, we have already answered the question, and if there is no more question, I think this is the end of the seminar. And thank you very much again for all the speakers for your sharing, and thank you very much for all the audience for your participation. Y muchas gracias por su tiempo. See you next time and hasta la próxima. Bye bye.
Lo esperamos para hacer negocios con Hong Kong acá.
One day we will see each other. Bye bye. Have a good morning over there.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
attending.
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. No los escucho.